Welcome back to the channel. We don't live here anymore. I'm Eddie. My counterpart is not here today. She's actually preparing family dinner. That's what she do. I love her to death. And today we're here with life coach. Introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Natasha, personal life coach and business consultant. Happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks for coming. So, if you saw the previous um, post that we made or podcast we made, episode, it was disclosure. It was basically me disclosing my personal issues with mental health and the things that were going on with me, and the fact that I didn't realize how far gone I was until I actually had a depressive episode. And so a lot of times, one of the things that we discussed in that episode was the fact, well, I discussed, was that there are not enough providers for people who look like us. There are not enough people who look like us to help us out in times when we deem, or when we go to look for the help that we need. So Tasha is a life coach, and I know in the previous episode I said to get a therapist. I have a therapist. I have a therapist and a psychiatrist. But if you don't want to go that option, then Tasha, tell us why a life coach would be a helpful thing when it comes to mental health, or just overall getting yourself, trying to get yourself together. Like, how do you provide?
Okay, so I think that having a therapist and a life coach, depending on exactly what you're dealing with, is beneficial because life coaches do not practice, psychology or psychology related sessions. However, a therapist is someone who can help you deal with the past and give you certain tools that a life coach may or may not be able to. However, there are life coaches who are certified psychologists and mental health therapists. So, with a life coach is either coaching from one of two aspects, either skill set,
Mm-hmm.
something they've learned, and they're teaching people how to do it, or mindset,
Okay.
which is something they've overcome, which is what I coach on.
Okay.
So, in terms of mental health and depression and different things like that, I help women transform their lives and get to their next personal and professional level, what that means to them, by helping them to identify, heal, and grow through those painful experiences that they've endured in their childhood and adolescence.
Right. Because we were speaking, and I remember I was telling you how I was doing the non for profit, and how I wasn't able
Mm-hmm.
to kind of regulate that. Like, I expected that I would be further along in the process.
Mm-hmm.
However, I kept having like this blockage. Like, I'm trying. I'm going through the therapy. I'm going through the I'm a psychiatrist, psychologist. I'm putting in the work, and it seems like I'm at a point where I am stuck. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the life coach for me would be it would be good, something good for people at my stage, because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
now that you've finally got your boundaries in place,
Mm-hmm.
and you finally learn how to tell, boundaries, and tell people no, and set healthy standards, like, okay, I can and I cannot do, like, how would, like, a life coach come in and help me do those kind of things, like be proactive in the things that I learned in therapy.
So, a life coach would be beneficial to you because they would meet you where you are. That's what a life coach does. Meet you where you are and
Mm-hmm.
help you get clear on your goals. Because sometimes we feel stuck because we're not clear on what it is we're trying to do. And
Right.
sometimes we have to scale it down, or niche down, as they would say, to
Mm-hmm.
exactly what it is, that thing that you're trying to do. Sometimes we're trying to do four or five, six things when we really need to focus on that one thing, master that, and then you can work on something else. So, a life coach would be able to meet you where you are
Mm-hmm.
and help you find the clarity that you need based on what your goals are and what it is you're trying to achieve, and then give you actionable steps to help move you in that direction. So, in its essence, a life coach meets you where you are and gives you the blueprint to take you where you are trying to be.
Okay. So how long typically, like, so if I was to be your client, like how long typically do life coaches work with their, what do you call it when it's a life coach to a,
Client.
okay, client.
Hmm.
So how long do typically, is it like the plan is individualized? Like, is it like a master overall plan? Like, is it like, how would it work?
So it depends on the coach and it depends on the program that you're in.
Okay.
So my program, for instance, I have a 5 week program,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a little more involved because you're dealing with identifying and healing things that you have gone through,
Mm-hmm.
right? And how to overcome. And I take a holistic approach, which a lot of life coaches do, where we're not only healing and
Mm-hmm.
repairing what's going on or what happened, but we're also renewing your mind. You know, you're taking on new knowledge, you're learning new things, and then we're recreating the vision for your life. And then we're putting in actionable items and goals that you can do that will help move you forward to those goals. So to get um, real benefit from it, I
Mm-hmm.
would say you would need at least 4 to 6 sessions, depending on what your specific issue is that you're dealing with.
Okay, so how would it begin? So like for me, so like, okay, so depressive episodes, on medication, seeing a psychiatrist and a psychologist at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, still continuing to like to move forth and do the work. So like you would sit down with me and see where I it would envision myself going.
Yes. So first, you definitely want to hire a coach that has dealt with depression,
Mm-hmm.
that specifically teaches on depression.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for anything that you're looking for coaching on, to hire a coach that has specifically handles that matter,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that you're getting the most out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that that coach can speak to exactly what your need is. So you would do generally, you would do an intake. Most coaches offer free calls. You'll do a
Mm-hmm.
free call to find out where you are and exactly where are you looking to go
Mm-hmm.
and where you're having trouble.
Got it.
And
Got
from there,
it.
the
Mm-hmm.
coach would work with you to devise a plan.
Mm-hmm.
You may have a few assignments, you know, every week that you would have to complete, but that's just to help you meet your goal. And then the life coach is there to hold you accountable to make sure that you're doing what it is you said you want to do,
Okay.
right? Because sometimes we get stuck in the wanting to do things,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't have the clarity that it takes to actually do those things. So
Oh.
while our intentions are good,
Right. We don't have to
you know,
follow through. We
right.
don't. We have to, like, yeah, we don't get that. Like I said to myself last week, I was like, okay, so I'm gonna, maybe it's not, I don't know. I can't speak for anybody else, but maybe it's not that you don't have the follow through. Maybe you're afraid. So like
Mm-hmm.
with the non for profit, like I have this director who I was supposed to speak to go like move the non for profit further.
Okay.
But I got afraid. Like I went
Mm-hmm.
into the facility to talk to her and I was all like gung ho. And then somebody was like, oh, well, just take her email address and then email her. And I haven't emailed her yet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that fear of like, okay, this is not normally what I'm doing and it's a little uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't know if that's called procrastination or
Well, you know, that's perfectly normal, um, because growth is uncomfortable.
mm-hmm,
Anytime that you're trying something new,
mm-hmm,
you will be a little nervous. But when the nervousness turns into fear and the fear paralyzes you and prevents you from moving on, that's when it's a little more serious.
mm-hmm.
And you would need a life coach or someone to get to the root of what your fear is.
And that's okay, so that's the issue. So alongside of the mental the my diagnosis and that kind of stuff, if you see me look down because it's like it's a
It's
little
okay.
it's a little
I'll look at the
it's
camera.
you gotta look at the camera. I'm still a little sensitive about it. Like I'm working through it, and disclosure helps. And this is what like if you saw the last show on you disclosure is when someone speaks to a camera and it's a form of therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So with me, disclosure helps. What I've noticed is that after going through therapy, actually during going through therapy and seeing my psychiatrist and my therapist, I noticed that there've been I had a lot of gaps,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of memory loss, like
Mm-hmm.
like for traumas.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, what I've been discovering is that there's been traumatic experiences that my brain was not able to process,
Mm-hmm.
and so now coming not completely out of, but like working through, the mental illness and trying to come out of it and do different things. It's like that fear, like you said, the fear becomes
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it is overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's like, am I going to have the same experiences that I had before that I didn't actually remember I had to begin with?
Right. So that's why it's very important to be able to heal from those childhood traumas. And as far as the gaps, sometimes we subconsciously we
Mm-hmm.
black things out that's too painful for us to remember. And although we black it out, those very things are
Mm-hmm.
dictating how we show up in life each and every day. And we don't know that, but it affects us. It affects
Yeah.
how we treat ourselves.
Yeah.
It affects how we allow others to treat us. It affects our confidence or lack thereof,
Mm-hmm.
our relationships, what we're teaching our children, how we raise them, and what we take into our marriages, our relationships.
So then how then can we, like, I was talking to like one of the therapists, and basically what she asked me is what am I holding on to,
Mm-hmm.
or what's not what am I holding on to, like what is weighing you down,
What is your pain point? Mm-hmm.
and that's a very
Loaded question.
that's a loaded question,
Yes, it is.
because you don't realize what is weighing you down. Like you would, to me, and in full disclosure, I'm not saying anything bad about my parents or anything, because for me, I lived a basically what would be a decent life. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we were in the projects, but we weren't there long. Both my parents had good jobs, and we lived in a house, and
Mm-hmm.
typical things that should not be something for someone to have traumatic experiences from. However, after going through, this episode, I'm discovering that there are pain points.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, how do you address pain points for someone to safely move through them? Because there's been times where I have saw healthcare professionals, like counselors at church, or um, not the therapist I have now.
Mm-hmm.
He's freaking awesome. Not my psychiatrist, but my therapist is awesome. But the thing with my psychiatrist is he's not awesome because I don't know if he's too young, or if he doesn't look like us.
Okay.
And there's too many times that I have to explain to him cultural norms.
Yes.
So the fact that you look like me gives me a little more comfortability when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to, and then you're a woman, so it's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
the some of the things I experienced you had to have. Even if you
Mm-hmm.
haven't, you have like empathy for them. But it's just like, how do you safely work someone through a pain point to get them to a safe place? Because like sometimes, like I said, counselors in church, so just throw it out there. We had a thing at church, like a prayer service, like, so the preacher got up and she was like, oh well, if anyone has ever had anything happen to them in their life, any sexual trauma, come to the thing, and then get prayer, and then when you get finished getting prayer, come to the back, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll have a conversation. So brung up you brung up the pain, and I went to the altar to get prayer for something
Mm-hmm.
that I don't normally think about.
Right.
So now it's up, and it's in my face, and it's normally somewhere in the back crevices of my mind, that to the point where I don't have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically took a band-aid off of a situation
Mm-hmm.
and didn't provide healing. So how do life coaches get people to safely maneuver through their pain points to places of healing?
So it's a holistic approach
Mm-hmm.
because you can not just fix something, and I hate to say fix, but repair or heal a wound
Mm-hmm.
without replacing it with other things, with new knowledge. with new awareness, with new confidence, someone who will be able to help you discover your self-worth and your self-value. Right? So for everything you take away, you need to replace with things that are positive, things that are productive, things that's going to help you continue on your healing journey, right? Because it's not something we just heal and that's it. Every day that you live, you're learning, you're growing, you're healing, right? So the whole point is to get to your most optimal self, where you can completely embrace yourself and love yourself and accept everything about you, not just the good parts, but the flaws and the mistakes.
Got it.
And in order to do that, you have to be able to extend yourself grace, which is a lesson that I had to learn because I could forgive everyone, but I was very hard on myself. So one of the things that I tell my clients, which I've done myself because I don't tell them anything that I haven't practiced, I went back from as far as I could remember, and I wrote down what my pain points were. And at the time, I may have not known all of them were the pain points, but what those experiences were that were painful to me, what was hurtful to me, what I shut out. Of course, with lots of prayer, because it's not something that you can do by yourself, And after you identify all of those things, then you have to ask yourself, what effect did this have on me? What did it teach me? What did this tell me about myself? Right? And then the next step after you go through that for each of the pain points, and I don't want to simplify it, but giving an overview, after you do
it can't
that,
be simplified.
You have to ask yourself, how is it showing up in my life every day? How did it affect me?
Right.
What do I think of myself? How do I think of myself when that occurred? And what I feel about myself.
Okay.
Yeah. So not to simplify the process, but giving you an overview. So you want to go back as far as you can. For some of us, that means 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. And you want to have a list of everything that you've experienced that didn't make you feel good. Because you may not know when you're starting that it's a pain point, but it didn't make you feel good. And then you have to ask yourself, and you're writing this down, right? You're writing everything down, and you have to ask yourself, how did it affect you? What did it teach you about yourself? Right? So, say for instance, if you were molested as a child, and of course, you're scared to say anything, and you've held this on all your life, and the person who did it told you, you better not tell because no one's going to believe you anyway. And right? So, of course, now you're afraid to speak. Right? So what did that teach you? And you grew up that way, that you're knowing or feeling that your voice doesn't matter. So when your voice doesn't matter, you're not going to speak up for yourself. It also took away your confidence. And that was at a little girl, and now you're growing up and you're older and you're in the world, but you're still carrying those same wounds. So if you don't have the confidence that you need, you feel like you're not worth anything, because molestation and rape is real. It takes away who you are, any little bit of self-worth that you have, and that happens as an adult, but more or less when you're a child, a little girl, and you haven't developed and you don't understand what confidence is and what it means to love yourself. Can you imagine how painful and gruesome that is? Excuse me, to have to grow up with that.
Yeah, it's like, but then you know what you were saying earlier, that it shows up in your life in different forms, and you don't even realize it. I told my therapist the other day that if he didn't stop not listening to me, I was gonna come through the phone and choke him out. Because ooh, that man,
I didn't just hear that.
She didn't hear that. She didn't hear that. He and it's funny because my black therapist keeps saying, my black therapist keeps telling me, stop telling that white man stuff. He gonna put you in the hospital. But it dawned on me, I often don't feel. All right, and we're back. We real live here, real life things happening, dogs barking, in-laws coming back and forth.
It's okay.
it
makes it that more exciting and interesting.
I know you keep
this
saying
is real
that,
life,
and
we're
think,
gonna do it anyway.
that's part of the problem with me. Like, I really have gotten, I have to be a perfectionist. Things really bother me. And now, honestly speaking, I think that's part of the issue with me and my depression, because being at work and having to do things in a perfect manner and not being able to fail, like, really probably took me further than it probably should have taken me. But that's probably something that I would have put down as a pain point.
I was going to say.
It's something I would have put down as a pain point, because, like I was saying, I often feel as if I'm not heard. So if I'm not heard, then why am I telling you anything? Because you don't hear me anyway. You're not acknowledging what's going on with me, so why should I continue to tell you anything? And that's probably something I'm going to take the time to write down and figure out.
Yeah, and the fact that you're quiet, shows that although you're feeling that you're not heard, but you're also feeling, and this part you can control. You can't control someone not hearing you, but deep inside you're feeling that your voice doesn't matter.
That's how it feels.
Right? And then, so what the process is, you have to get to the root of where did you learn that? Where did you pick that up? Who taught you that? Or who made you believe that? Because a lot of times what we think about ourselves deep inside is not what we really think. It's what other people have projected on us through their words and actions.
And it just became what they projected is what you took on, and you just kind of just ran with it.
Right. And because you have these gray areas or those black spots that you were talking about, you're operating in pain from brokenness. So you can't see what's affecting you. You can't see certain things, because you don't have the clarity. And that's why it's important to go back and heal those things and find out what they are. Because even with procrastination, the number one reason why people procrastinate, it's not because I have time to do it later, I just don't feel like doing it now. It stems from being insecure and unsure of what it is that you're trying to do, or having that paralyzing fear. And unfortunately, we have this thing called self-talk that sometimes we're not aware of. What are you telling yourself? So it's a whole process where you have to learn to be mindful and get to that quiet, still place where you can separate yourself from your thoughts and look on as an observer and see exactly what your thoughts are. What are you telling yourself? Right? Because that fear, that procrastination, that all comes from whatever it is, whatever limited beliefs that you've taken on that you're telling yourself. And part of the healing process is identifying those things, right? Claiming the truth of it all, because that's not the truth. Whatever someone did to you, what the effect is, what you're telling yourself. We're placing it with the truth, and then rebuilding your mind, your spirit, and helping you discover your purpose. But you can't discover your purpose until you do all of that. And once you discover your purpose and you begin to operate in your purpose, you will operate in clarity, but more so with a sense of peace and value in yourself. So it's an entire program, and that's why I say it's 5 weeks. Because that's what we go through.
That makes so much sense. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. Being a life coach is not something I hadn't, because I considered it for myself. But I was like, whatever. And I was like, well, why do people need life coaches? But then when you just said what you said, that made perfect sense, because oftentimes it's, even though, going to the psychiatrist and the therapist, they don't often give me tools, so to speak. Like, we'll have conversations, and the psychiatrist is always trying to throw medicine at me. He loves throwing medicine at me. Like yesterday, I was upset. You want me to give you some anxiety medication? No, I don't want you to give me anxiety medication. I'm merely expressing to
those
you
are the band-aids.
that I'm upset. So it's just like the replacing of things, the bad things, with good things. The retraining of my mind. Because, although for me, I believe like the employment was just the kicker. It was just the thing that took me over the edge. But if I look back, it probably was more triggering than anything. It was probably just the last straw that's like, okay, bam, there's nothing else. I ain't got nothing else to give.
Mm-hmm.
Like that Huxtable with Claire, the episode of the Cosby where Claire stuck her head in the freezer. She's like, I'm never left
Mm-hmm.
again. So okay, so now we've spoke about pain points and what life coaches do. So if somebody wanted to sit down and speak with you, or how would they get in contact with you?
So, if you're looking for a life coach,
Mm-hmm.
and you have things that you want to work through,
Mm-hmm.
on my Instagram page, I
Mm-hmm.
have a schedule button
Mm-hmm.
where you can select that link and you can go right into my calendar and it'll show you the available days and times, and you can book a free call with me.
Got it.
And my Instagram is at iamcoachnatasha. It's iamcoachnatasha.
Got it.
And
Got
I
it. Got
also
it.
have a workshop coming up on April 2nd where
Mm-hmm.
I discuss this program in a little bit more detail.
Mm-hmm.
And if anyone would like to participate, they can just DM me at I am Coach Natasha, the word workshop, and I'll send the link so that they can sign up for the waiting list.
Okay, so we're gonna have her information in the link, in the bio link, and you can always link her. Follow her on Instagram. She has a lot of what is the word? Sometimes I get tongue tied when I'm doing this. She has a lot
Videos.
of, not just videos, but she has a lot of encouraging videos and posts that she puts up. You can follow her on the I am Tasha. Is that what it was?
I am Coach Natasha.
Oh, I am Coach Natasha on Instagram, and this is We Don't Live Here Anymore. I'm not sure if we covered all the topics today. However, if there's anything else to cover, I will be working with Coach Natasha and some other healthcare professionals, mental health care professionals for Black people. I'm just going to put it just like that, because the stigma of mental health and the healing process with Black people is one that we need to get past. We've done everything else the right way, so to speak. Like, so less of us are going to prison now. A lot of us are going to school. A lot of us are graduating. A lot of us are doing quote unquote the socially normal thing, except for when it comes to self-care, being self-aware, and doing the work necessary to become a whole person. Not just outside your body, like your physical body, but your mental health needs to be checked on the same way it is you check on your heart, you check on your lungs, and everything else. So this is Eddie at We Don't Live Here Anymore, signing out with Coach
Natasha. And I would just say one other thing about the triggers. Pay attention to the triggers. The triggers, although they hurt, they are good things because they alert you to what's going on inside of you and what you need to address.
Got it.
So those triggers, whatever they're bringing up in you, that's a pain point. And that's where you start your work.
Okay. So what would be a trigger?
So, like you said, when you had the interview, when you were procrastinating, and you realized that it was fear, right? And someone had took away your voice, and you didn't feel that your voice was valuable, and you were valuable,
right?
So now you have to get to the bottom of where did you learn that? Why do you feel that way? What happened to you, or what were you told that made you feel that your voice didn't matter and you weren't valuable?
Got it.
So that's a good that came up, because now
that
gives you one thing to go back and revisit. And then if you're working with the life coach, you would, bring that to your life coach, and they would be able to lead that exercise for you and lead you through that exercise of going back and figuring out where did you learn that from, and getting to the truth of it, replacing it with the truth, because the negativity is a lie. So they're going to replace it with the truth, and they're going to help you shift your mindset, become self-aware, teach you, how to value and fully accept yourself, and then replace that with new knowledge, help you find your purpose, and so that you can get to your next level. And everyone next level is geared towards whatever you're trying to achieve, and it's personal and professional. But any life coach or therapist that you work with, always make sure they're giving you tools. Therapy or coaching without tools is useless, because how are you going to go on? How do you know how to navigate the waters? Unless you have the equipment to navigate the waters, so to speak.
Got it.
Right?
Got it. So basically, I just got some free homework, because now I get to go sit down and write down why I procrastinate or why I don't feel like I'm being heard, because those things are necessary. So see that, Dr. Todd? You see that? Let me stop. Disclaimer. That's how you properly work with somebody. So,
And journal daily.
okay.
Journal your thoughts.
Something
and when
to
you
pick up.
journal with intention, and ask yourself and write it down. What are you feeling today?
Okay.
If you want to do it at the end of the day, that's fine too. What are you feeling? What made you feel that way? How was your day? How did you handle certain activities, certain experiences, certain people that you came into contact with? Write all of that down, because then that will help you to see the patterns.
Right.
Help you to see the pain, help you to see, okay, well, I could have done this better, or why is it that I acted in that manner?
Right.
And then that's homework. That's where you go back and get to the root of that, and set your days with intention. Get up, you have your affirmations, and you write down exactly how your day is going to be. So you're setting the tone
For the day.
for the entire day.
Right. Right. So normally when I get up, I
Meditate first.
Yeah.
Pray.
I pray when I get up in the morning.
And
I
then
pray.
you write your affirmations to set the tone of your day.
Okay.
So you're going into your day mentally prepared
For the day, for whatever it has to
for
take
whatever comes
Got
on.
it. So I got some free homework. We ain't really gonna sign off now, y'all. But I got some free homework. Y'all check out I Am Coach Tasha on Instagram. Check us out on We Don't Live Here Anymore. If this episode has been helpful for you, please hit her up, schedule an appointment. And we're going to have some things coming up towards healing. But those will be more intimate, because we're going to start small. Like the healing journey is a very intimate journey, and you don't want to just take it with everybody. So we'll see how that goes. But if you want to schedule something with Coach Tasha, hit her up. She just gave you a wealth of knowledge for free. All right, this is us. We're signing off.
Thank you all.
All right.
Be well, be blessed, and do the work.
See you later.